I want to go over the magnetic pulsar a little bit and actually talk about what may be a better thing for the future if they ever manufacture it. Maybe it might be manufactured someday in the future by Bioelectric. I don't know. And you can use a magnetic pulsar on your cat too. And I have a magnetic pulsar that you can adjust to a lower power. So if I want to use it on my cat, I just put it down lower power. It doesn't, and I guess full power would be excellent, but the brand I'm using is the one by Dr. Clark, and it's one of the best brands out there. It's about 5,500 Gauss when it's turned all the way up. Like for instance, if I turn this on, you can see the pulse lights moving, and it pulses every 5 seconds. And then if I turn the adjuster down, it makes a weaker pulse, a much weaker pulse, but much faster. And I chose this one because the capacitors in it, there's two capacitors that fire off and on, like the one fires and the other one fires. And if I need to replace a capacitor, it would only be an off-the-shelf unit. But actually, I'm going to tell you right now that the one who makes the very best magnetic pulsar, in my opinion, even though this is a very good quality one, is probably Soda Instruments. Theirs is rated at 6,000 Gauss. And despite anybody else's claims out there that their units do this and their units do that, from all my research, and I don't know if I hit everything there is out there, but I hit most of the stuff for sure. Soda Instruments magnetic pulsar is the strongest one on the market. It's a little bit stronger than the Dr. Clark. I believe these are correct numbers. Soda Instruments magnetic pulsar will pulse at 6,000 Gauss, and the highest setting on Dr. Clark's mag pulsar is 5,500. Pretty damn close. I like the Dr. Clark one. It was a little less money, and it's adjustable. The adjustable feature might have some use. I kind of like that. That's what sold me on it. And also I can get the capacitors. Now, Soda Instruments capacitors would probably last you, it's a proprietary type of capacitor that Soda Instruments uses. It's like super, super high quality. It would probably last like 20, 30 years or something. I don't think that thing's ever going to wear out. You can use that thing like 8 hours a day or something, and it's going to hold up. I calculated the capacitors on a Dr. Clark unit, firing in one at a time. If I use this for 2 years, 2 hours a day for 8 years, that's about what I'd probably have to replace a capacitor at that time, which I could buy. They're not hard. You just take the back off and replace it. So I figure that's good enough. But anyway, probably the very best one is Soda Instruments. Now, what I want to get on with is that, if you heard about the Beck protocol, Bob Beck, PhD or Doctorate of Science, he talks about using the magnetic pulsar to force microbes out of the lymph system into the bloodstream, whereby they could be electrified and stunned so they cannot infect new healthy cells. Now, him not being a doctor and me not being a doctor either, there's all kinds of viruses out there and all kinds of microbes. His protocol is useful. I'm not going to knock it, but it's got limits, especially like on cancer and HIV. Now, in the case of HIV, it's a provirus. It interlaces its RNA into the DNA or something like that. So zapping's not going to affect that. It hides in the lymph system, which is actually over 3 times the volume of the blood. So you're not getting any of that with blood electrification. And the pulsar's not having a strong enough effect on it. And also in the cases of cancer, you use this catch-all word cancer. That's almost like saying disease. Because there's a gazillion different, well, not a gazillion, there's many, many, many different types of cancers. Even when you get into Rife technology, there's various combinations of frequencies that allegedly will help alleviate cancer. But it depends on what type of cancer. So to have a catch-all that just gets cancer is like, oh, forget about it. That's ridiculous. That's really stretching the truth a lot. Although the Beck protocol is very useful, okay? Now, what I came across is there's patents out there that there's patents out there that talk about using a magnetic pulse to sterilize anything that's already in a container that's sealed. In other words, if there's a food that's in a container that's sealed and they want to make sure that food is sterilized, they use a magnetic pulsar between 2 Tesla and 100 Tesla. So 1 Tesla is equal to 10,000 Gauss. Now I said Soda Instruments magnetic pulsar is 6,000 Gauss, and I think it's the strongest one out there, despite anybody's claims of otherwise. It's the best quality. It's the strongest one. This Dr. Clark is actually a very good one too. It's just about as strong. It's very good quality too. Just a little less money. They're both very good units. But they're nowhere near 2 Tesla or 20,000 Gauss. That actually is the minimum requirement to actually, where patents will say, will harm microbes. And actually, you even need to go higher than that. But 2 Tesla or 20,000 Gauss is also considered safe for the body. So, what I think might be a very good, simple product that's a catch-all product that might be useful for people is a 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar, if it could be developed. And now, considering that Soda Instruments has the best one going, and it's 0.6 Tesla, and it's the strongest one I've ever seen, that might require, for all I know, it might not even work on 110. It might require 220. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure about the electronics involved with it. But 2 Tesla is the bottom range of the patent, where it talks about it actually will destroy microbes in a container that's sealed. So it has to go into the container several inches or a couple inches and destroy the microbe, or make it inactive. And not just move it around or to harm it or stun it temporarily. It actually will disrupt it enough that it's no longer a harm to the body or harm to whatever substance it's in. So to make something like that would be probably the perfect compromise between what's safe for the human body, because 2 Tesla, from my understanding, is safe for the human body. That's the upper limit of the MRIs, the magnetic resonance imaging things they use in a hospital. They consider 2 Tesla to be safe. If you made a magnetic pulsar that was 2 Tesla, I would, if that was actually to be made, in my opinion, you should keep the magnetic pulsar away from the heart anyway, because you never know if a person has a heart problem. Normally, it's considered safe anywhere on the body, but I would only, if you use a 2 Tesla or 20,000 Gauss magnetic pulsar, it should only be used on the lower abdomen and the arms and legs. This way, you are avoiding, vital organs or the brain or anything like that. I don't think it would have a harmful effect because, from my understanding, 2 Tesla does not harm the body. But that is where the minimum range is, where the patent gets into, where it actually will cause pathogens to be destroyed, not just disrupted temporarily, knocked out a little bit, moved around, like destroyed. That's getting into the minimum requirement where it actually destroys pathogens. So a magnetic pulsar, if it was ever developed, that was 2 Tesla or 20,000 Gauss, would probably be pretty expensive, and I'd imagine the part on the top here would get hot very quickly. So you'd only be able to use it maybe for 10-15 minutes at a time. I would imagine that would be the case. But the effectiveness of it would be great. Because the problem is with a lot of pathogens, actually 90% of your, well, they say allegedly 80 to 90% of your immune system, and also where disease starts, is in your gut. So if you can actuate something like a magnetic pulsar that could actually get deep within the intestines and the Peyer's patches, and areas of the gut lining where anything hides, and various cancers hide, whether it's prostate cancer, maybe that might have a good effect on it, and maybe that'll be a simple thing that people can use that may be cheaper to produce overall. And I suggest this not just to the alternative quote-unquote medical community. I suggest this to the established conventional medical community, because the price of medicine is getting so far out of hand that people are just not going to be able to afford it anyway. It's, in other words, there's going to have to be something cheaper to offer the public that at least you'll have an ongoing sale. So even the model where these expensive meds that are out or whatever for cancer and all those expensive treatments that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in operations and stuff, if you don't have that many customers, you're still not going to get the revenue. Maybe if you have a lot of customers with magnetic pulsars and they're somewhat effective, and I'll say somewhat effective, say if they are, then you actually will have the same revenue. It's almost like having a whole bunch of small transactions versus having a few big transactions. So I don't think it would hurt the revenue stream of the conventional medical people. It just might be beneficial to a lot more people, and it would actually, if it worked okay, or worked, say, a majority of the times had some kind of good effect, it would give a lot more respect back to doctors in the medical community, because I think their reputations are being tarnished lately by some of these things that are going on with medicines that don't work that well, and there are cancer patients dying and all this type of stuff after paying lots of money. Now, I want to point out with this magnetic pulsar, you see there's a north side and a south side. The south side emits a positive pulse for magnetic pulse, and the north side emits a negative. The body cells are normally negatively charged. The pathogens are positively charged. Now, this actually goes back to Hulda Clark's theory. Now, I don't have a lot of faith in Hulda Clark. I think there's merit to what she says, but it's almost like where you shoot yourself in the foot with alternative medicine. You might find something that is good, and then you exaggerate the hell out of it, and it makes you look like an idiot. Because you just said, I can cure, Hulda Clark says she had all the cures for cancer, and she can cure cancer in so many minutes, and, she might have had a lot of stuff that was extremely useful and beneficial for the majority of cases, but not like to the extent she said, and that just doesn't make her look good. So it's best to be humble if you present some new idea. But in the case of Hulda Clark, she talked about using the negative side, negative charges of electricity. So if you have a square wave that goes like this, it's like a positive charge, negative charge. You want to have like where it's like 70 to 90% negative charge, which actually is causing, disrupting the pathogens, because it's electricity they don't like. The pathogens are usually positively charged. So that's supposedly the theory behind it. Now, I have a rare book. This was in paperback. This was hard to get. I couldn't find this on a PDF anywhere. It's actually, I don't think they're doctors. They're just researchers. It's Albert Roy Davis and Walter C. Rawls. They were actually down here in Florida. This is a fairly thin paperback book. This actually cost me about $60-70, and I've seen them going for like $300 or more. Okay? And I read it several times. It talks about a lot about the effects of magnets or magnetism, whether you're using north side or the south side, or the negative side, north side, or the positive side, south side. And there is a lot of research to back up this magnetic pulse theory. It's just that, our whole model of conventional medicine is all geared toward pharmaceutical drugs, which is okay. It's okay. It's not, pharmaceutical drugs do work. I'm not saying they don't, but, if they put some more research into these electronic methods, it could make overall medicine cheaper, and they probably just have more customers, and they probably have more very young people that are 80 years old, and maybe they're like 30. I don't know. I mean, that's the theory behind it. I don't think their business would go down. I don't think their business would go down. I don't think this is a threat to the medical people's business. And I know there's this thing out there, which I agree with, that there's like if you bring in something like a plant or an electronic method that does the same thing or close to the same thing as a pharmaceutical drug, and you knock down their business, well, they would consider that a major threat, and they would do everything to stop it, even if it's good. I mean, I agree with that conspiracy theory. I think that's just something that's all around with, how money works and profit and revenue. I mean, that's just human nature. Somebody has a racket, they don't want to get, they don't want people coming into their racket. But the thing is, with alternative medicine, if you want to call it that, quote unquote, I want to call it medicine, because some of these things go back to They go back to the conventional doctors. And then the AMA threw out these electronic devices later on in the 50s. But all these conventional doctors were using them in the 20s. And if they didn't work at all, they wouldn't have had any patients. That's the way I look at it. But the thing is, it's not gonna cut down business. Because if it provides some effect for a very low price, you're just going to have more business because more people can afford it. So, I mean, it's like you just have a lot more transactions. So that's how I look at it. Or maybe there'll be more sale of these devices or whatever. But, I have to say this again, that people in this alternative, quote-unquote, medical world, when they exaggerate, they basically do alternative medicine a very big disfavor to service, because then it shows that you are saying something that's very untrue, and because you exaggerate it, even though there's some truth in it in a lesser way. And that's probably where the truth really is. There's some merit to these things. The magnetic pulsar may provide some benefits. I think it does. I think it could be used for now. The only time you would use the south side of the magnetic pulsar is if you want to aid and help with healing, and you want to do that in the presence of no infection, because it inspires growth, allegedly, and if you have an infection, it'll inspire the growth of the infection. So for instance, if you had a cut across your hand, if you want to heal it faster, the south side of the magnetic pulsar could supposedly help heal it faster. But my point is, it should be, I don't know what is required. It probably takes a lot, and it's probably expensive to develop a 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar. A 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar is kind of, in my opinion, is a happy medium between what has been touted as being safe for the body, yet it's at the lowest range of where it actually will destroy pathogens inside the body. So, something like that may actually work to help with, curing some type of disease. It might actually help. And, I would suggest that conventional doctors look at this technology because, even like, I know where it's coming from. It's not coming from the average doctor or the average nurse, where they're against this type of stuff so much, unless it's really exaggerated and blown out of proportion. It's not like the average doctor or average nurse is against this type of stuff. It's actually when you get the very high up, money people, they get against it. But, I have to point out, by doing these types of procedures, and if they work, and they're proven to work, yeah, you might be taking some money away from one area, but you might be having a whole lot more money coming in from another area. It might be less big transactions and a whole bunch of small transactions. So I don't think the money's going to be lost. And it actually, as the reputation of the doctors and the medical people goes up because of these new cheap cures and things like that, say they work, it's going to actually help business. So, if you look at the money in a smart way, it's actually, this alternative medicine is actually going to provide the medical community more money. But I don't know. Some people just don't think like that. It's going to provide them more money if you accurately do it correctly, and it provides real results for a lower price, because you'll have more transactions overall, more people coming to you. So, but I just like to suggest, if anybody's out there that knows how to make these magnetic pulsars, they can make a 2 Tesla or 20,000 Gauss magnetic pulsar. That might be something to experiment with. And I would only experiment, even though 2 Tesla is considered safe by the body from my research, I would not put it anywhere near the heart. I would do it only in the lower abdomen, legs, and arms. But considering that most disease actually comes from the abdomen, that would actually maybe provide a lot of effect, assuming it works in the body just as effectively as 2 Tesla would work on a can of some kind of food or something in a jar. Whereas if you took 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar and you pulsed it several times into a jar that had some pathogens, there's things that show that at that strength, at least 2 Tesla, 20,000 Gauss, it actually will destroy the pathogens. The Soda Instruments pulsar is in my opinion, the best quality one going, the strongest one going. It's 6,000 Gauss. It's zero point 0.6 Tesla. It's actually a very, very strong magnetic pulsar compared to all the other ones out there, despite the other ones' hype and all this type of stuff. But if it was up to 20,000 Gauss, it might actually be a very powerful tool to, knock back problems with the body. Because it's that negative charge that pathogens don't like. You want to use the north side, the negative side mainly. And in very rare instances, you want to use the south side. But almost all the time, always use the north side. So just want to put that out there for a suggestion, because I don't think anybody makes a 20,000 Gauss 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar. And if you make one of those, it definitely would have to be encased in a heavy type of plastic, because that wand is actually going to get very hot from all the energy that's out there. And it would have, if it was an exposed coil, it could provide a major electrical shock. It would have to be encased in a plastic for sure, a good plastic that does not break and is not subjected to excessive heat. So just an idea that it seems to, I just beyond my belief that somebody has not made this, but it may come out sometime in the future. 2 Tesla magnetic pulsar. That might be the idea that might work as a fairly effective cure-all. It might. Because looking at the patents from how it works on canned goods, goods in a package, or it's foods and you got microbes in there, 2 Tesla is enough to knock those pathogens down. So why wouldn't it work on the body? And 2 Tesla is considered safe for the body. Now, like I said, I would only use it on the arms, legs, and abdomen, and avoid the heart area, in the brain, and all that type of stuff. But, it should be safe on the body, because they use 2 Tesla in the magnetic resonance imaging as it is. So, it's just an idea. I just want to put forth that may be an excellent idea. And I would hope that conventional medical people look at this idea, because, it might take it away from one area. But overall, I think the money would actually return in a lot more smaller, numerous transactions, and the overall revenue stream would still be there.